In the news this week, cooking dumplings during restaurant robbery, an alleged bizarre crime caught on camera. A WA News exclusive.
WA farmers prepare to save live animal export by targeting swing seats in the next election. Peter Kennedy's exclusive interview.
Baby died in mother's womb. Grieving mother deals with trauma as family advocate demands answer from Joondalup Hospital.
And panda diplomacy. China Premier Li Qiang's historic visit to Perth. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loon and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. We begin with a bizarre robbery story you won't see anywhere else. A restaurant owner in Morley was left heartbroken and confused this week after a thief allegedly broke into his restaurant and stole cash, food, a coffee machine and hot water dispenser. But in a bizarre twist, it appears the thief also allegedly attempted to cook dumplings in the kitchen before leaving joint. Paige Reid with this exclusive report.
The owner of a Hong Kong-themed restaurant in Morley was left heartbroken and confused this week after a thief allegedly broke into his establishment on Tuesday morning. At around 2 a.m, it will be alleged that the thief broke in and made alleged attempts to smash the cash register before helping himself to instant noodles, Fanta and cordial around the cafe, as well as other items such as coffee machines and a hot water dispenser. Restaurant owner Mike said he believes the stealing of food and drinks may have something to do with the current cost of living crisis, given many people are struggling right now.
Yeah, I think everyone is tight right now, so maybe there's of the economic problem. Like all the shops, the cost is going higher, but our price is kind of going up higher as well. So I think everyone, the living cost is really bad right now.
The thief then helped himself to the kitchen, attempting to cook wonton dumplings before quickly abandoning the venture and fleeing out the back door with a trolley filled with stolen goods. Mike says he found the cooking of food at 2 a.m. odd and bizarre, as he appeared to not know how the cooker worked. It appeared that this man thought that desperate times called for desperate measures.
I have no idea why he's doing that at 1 or 2 p.m. Maybe he's just too hungry. He haven't cooked anything because I think he don't know how to turn on the cooker. Yeah, but he left all the food in the bench, so I know he tried to cook it.
Police are currently investigating the matter, and anyone with information should contact Crime Stoppers. Paige Reid, WAMN News.
The live export debate continues in Western Australia as farmers gather to decide their next move to protect their trade. WA Farmers President John Hassell revealed they intend to target 20 marginal seats in the upcoming federal election with a $1.6 million campaign fund. Peter Kennedy has this exclusive interview.
So we're meeting with David Pocock this morning with the view to try and get a Senate inquiry, which is what Murray Watt promised in the first place. I think he's trying to do the dirty on us by having a lower house inquiry and saying we've had an inquiry and wash it under the carpet. Gave us less than 2 weeks to do it, had 9,000 submissions, 600 submissions have gone up on the website. They simply can't report back on Monday in time and do it justice because I think they're trying to do the dirty on us.
Mr Hassell, what do you think a new inquiry can achieve?
Well, I think it'd actually get down to the real issues and they can see the effects of what this will do in the bush, and also to the cost of living, which I don't think they've been able to investigate well enough with the lower house inquiry. And they're just knocking back a lot of submissions. So they're saying that anything that's on a pro forma can't be submitted, and which means to keep the sheep producers put one out. We all altered it, but they're not accepting it because it's pro forma. So, and I think that's being a bit disingenuous, and we need to make sure we get that.
You're heading the Keep the Sheep campaign. How are you going with your fundraising?
Going very well. We've got $350,000 so far. Spent a bit of that, but we've got a target of $1.6 million, and that's if we have to go down the path. If we can't get the Labor Party to reverse this policy before the election, or before it's enacted, then we'll be targeting 20 electorates across the country.
And if the sheep export ban goes ahead, what does that mean for WA sheep farmers?
Well, it'll be devastating. Probably farmers will adapt. Farmers are good adapters, but it'll be devastating for regional communities, employment. The trucking contractors will struggle. The schools will struggle. We'll lose schools. We'll lose police stations. We'll lose community shopping centres, doctors. It'll devastate regional Western Australia. Devastate it. And it's having an effect right across the country too, I might add, because there was no certainty from the shipping companies to bring their ships back here because we didn't even have a date. So the ships haven't been coming. It's actually had a massive downward pressure on the price of sheep already.
And John Hassell, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Peter.
Hi there. Are you looking for a new home or want to refinance your car mortgage to get a better rate? At AA Finance Solutions, we have the expertise and knowledge to help you to find the right loan for your needs and budgets. Contact us today. Let us help you to make your home ownership dream a reality.
AA Finance Solutions, your local mortgage broker.
Chinese Premier Li Qiang joined Prime Minister Anthony Albanese for a luncheon with Perth's Chinese community this week.
Premier Li began his final leg of the Australian tour with a roundtable meeting with business leaders at Kings Park, followed by a visit to the Kwinana battery factory. He then attended a luncheon in Perth and concluded his day with a visit to the Fortescue Metals R&D facility in Kewdale. The lunch was held in the Western Hotel at Perth City, attended by hundreds of guests including businessmen, VIP and local Chinese community leaders. During their speeches, both Premier Li and PM Albanese emphasized the importance of strengthening relations between the two countries.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister and I co-chaired the 9th China-Australia Leadership Summit and reached consensus on bilateral cooperation. On the past 3 days, I've also engaged with local governments, the business community, and the public, and Parliament. From which I gained more comprehensive understanding of the bilateral cooperation.
Welcoming Premier Li to our shores is a timely opportunity to showcase our national values, the qualities of our people and the strengths of our economy, not the least of course here in WA. But I also want to acknowledge, as the Premier did, the adorable pandas who are on their way to Adelaide. Indeed, my government is pro-panda, to be very clear, and we very much welcome.
Tragedy struck another West Australian mother in March this year, with reports circulating of the death of another baby in Joondalup Hospital. WIME News recently spoke to multicultural community leader Suresh Rajan about the incident, in which a young mother was made to wait 2 days to give birth to a stillborn child. On that Friday, the young mother went into the Joondalup Health Campus to have her baby induced. She had a balloon catheter put in, the baby seemed well, and her birth was rescheduled for another day. Later in the night, a nurse checked on her and found that the baby had died in the womb, from a cause of which Mr. Rajan is unaware of. Mr. Rajan said that Ramsay Healthcare have a lot of answers to provide, and that they have already carried out an external inquiry. He said that the situation brought into question the jurisdiction of the Minister and Health Department over public and private hospitals, and the question of standard of care. He said that the Health Minister must investigate.
I think the key issue that we've talked about all along is this marriage between state and the private sector. We know that only recently the Premier has signed a contract with the same provider for the next 15 years. Now, there should be some escape clauses, and I think that those things should be examined as to how much we hand over to private operators as to the standard of care. We need to ensure that the standard of care that applies in public hospitals is at least at the same level, if not, having private hospitals aspire to higher levels of care. So I think that that's the thing that we need to monitor.
A dramatic car chase occurred around Perth, tearing through the state's northeast suburbs. At around 10 to 11 on Thursday morning on the 20th of June in Belmont, WA police officers tried to get a car which was stolen and showing false number plates to stop. The vehicle's driver did not stop for police, and authorities deployed a helicopter and a plane to monitor the car's movements. The car initially travelled on the Great Eastern Highway towards Northam before turning back to Perth. The car then turned onto Yarra The car then turned onto Yarra Road before heading west on Brookton Highway, then headed south on Albany Highway. The 33-year-old male driver was taken into custody without incident after the car's tyres were deflated in Ashenden on Albany Highway. The man remains in custody as investigations are ongoing.
The WA government have announced a temporary reprieve for the embattled women's shelter in the heart of Perth. Homelessness Minister John Carey announced that a review of the Safe Night Space planning application, which is to be in Northbridge James Street, has been finalised. The space provides a shelter to help women who are in need, particularly those leaving domestic violence situations. The service is run by Rural Community Services, and the program used to be in East Perth at the Rod Evans Community Centre before the stoush between the state government and the City of Perth. The Rural Centre for Women and Children is still being constructed, and the Northbridge location is only temporary.
Down Rod Evans. So we are ready to go in the coming days. We've been doing ongoing planning, working with all our teams and the Community Advisory Group for Safe Nights. Through this planning, we've worked with the community and neighbours at James Street to make sure that we're ready, and we're considering what the service needs to look like for the women, for our staff and for the whole community.
As the housing crisis remains unsolved and winter sets in, the Vinnie's annual CEO Sleep Out event has attracted more than 100 executives of local organisations to gather at Optus Stadium for an overnight homelessness experience. With sleeping bags and cardboard being placed around the stadium chairs, participants get a rough night's sleep to raise funds for homelessness services. Multicultural Services Centre CEO Ramdas Sankaran also took part in the event and raised $12,000, smashing his fundraising target of $4,000.
The whole purpose of Sleeping Out tonight is to raise awareness about homelessness in general, and in my case, homelessness as it impacts migrants and refugees. So regardless of the call, I was going to be here anyway.
And now here's Leo Puglisi with what's coming up on 6 News tonight.
Thanks, guys. The top stories we're following on 6 News today. Peter Dutton labels the PM a child in a man's body as he talks up the coalition's nuclear power plan. Reform balls ahead of the Conservatives in some polls as Labor's expected landslide UK election win edges closer. And the Nationals easily retain the seat of Northern Tablelands in a by-election with Brendan Moylan. They're headed to the New South Wales Parliament. If you, of course, watch 6 News live on the hour, every hour on our YouTube channel and our website, 6newsau.com. For now, it's back to you.
Thanks, guys. Speaking of the Vinnie CEO Sleep Out, thank you so much to everyone who donated and everyone who took part. The money went towards a really great cause.
And Ramdas managed to raise $16,000. His initial target was $4,000, so good on you, Ramdas.
And now here's Paige Reid with Western Perspective.
Thanks, Ivan and Melly. Welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Paige Reid. The Greens are preparing to fight for a share on the balance of power in the upper house during the 2025 state election. Since the McGowan election wipeout 4 years ago, former Fremantle Mayor Dr. Brad Patet became the sole survivor as his colleagues in other minor parties lost to the Labor landslide. So how have things been going in regards to the upcoming election?
It feels like the election is coming early, both with federal and state, rapidly upon us. From a Greens perspective, going really well. We've managed to pre-select some very good upper house candidates. I'm looking forward to having some friends in Parliament after 2025. So we've got a bunch of really good people, including Sophie McNeill, a former ABC journalist, Tim Clifford, who was formerly in the Parliament, and Jess Beckling, who's headed up WAFA for West Australian Forest Alliance for a long time, along with Diane Evers, who was formerly in the Parliament, and Ken Ewing. Then we got some really good people. We're hoping, I think we should get 4 people. If we get 10% of the vote, we could do better than that. Our poll numbers have us at 14 at the moment, which would see even more than that. So that's an exciting shift for us.
There's been a lot of talk about renewable energy and nuclear power from the Liberals. If you're elected back in, how do you intend to combat this renewable energy issue?
The great thing about renewables is that their benefits speak for themselves. They are now the cheapest form of new electricity, even with firming, about half the price of nuclear. frankly, nuclear is never going to happen in WA. Our grid's too small, the timelines are too long, and the cost is too high. So I'm pretty confident that's actually not the real battle. In fact, it's a distraction from what is the real battle, which is how do we get enough wind, solar and storage and the transmission to link those up in a way that we can minimise the amount of gas that's in the system. There's a real danger at the moment there's going to have to be lots of new gas come in to replace coal. If we had have got our planning and our projects right, that wouldn't have been necessary. So there's, it's actually around holding the Labor government to account to reduce the amount of gas in the system, not getting too distracted by, frankly, the nuclear debate, which is not much more than delay and distraction.
In the last election, you were only able to obtain one seat in the upper house. How do you plan to change it this election?
Well, the big bit that's changed for us is instead of having 6 regions, we now have 1 region, so across the whole state. So so quotas have gone from needing 13% of the vote to now only needing 2.6%. So that makes it a lot easier for us. So if we get even the vote we got last time, we'll get 3. If we get the vote we normally get in an election, we'll get 4. We could even get 5 or 6. So it's an exciting time for the Greens. We expect and hope that after the next election we'll have the balance of power and a real say in what happens in the West Australian Parliament.
So there are many choices for parties in this upcoming election. Why should the people of WA choose the Greens? Why should they choose you? What makes your party stand out?
Well, given that the Labor Party have moved further and further right over the last few years, and the Libs are further right again, there is a lot of space for us as a party. And because I think anyone who wants a progressive government, the Greens are their only choice in WA, because Labor, frankly, isn't progressive in WA. Even just come up from a rally around ending the live sheep trade. Whilst the Albanese government is supporting that, the Cook government's not. There are so many examples of where the Cook government is actually as conservative as the Libs. In fact, there is barely daylight between them. So the only progressive choice, frankly, is the Greens, and I hope that West Australians who care about the future for their kids and of this place will vote for us.
Lovely. Just my last question. What else do you plan to do if elected?
Well, there will be certainly, in addition to our main job, which is reviewing legislation and making it better and moving amendments, obviously we also want to make sure that we're putting some of the key things that need to happen for a better WA on the table, be it around housing and homelessness, actually getting proper funds and proper policies in place to really address the housing crisis, not just pretend we are. On climate, actually bringing down emissions in the state, the only state that's got rising emissions and no plan to get them down. There is so much that we can do. We're going to be very, very busy, and that's why I'm very pleased that I will have some friends in 2025 and beyond.
That was Brad Petit, and now here is Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. I've seen a few people just in this last week with quite complicated medical issues that have never really been properly sorted out because they didn't have patients to get their head around complex medical conditions that patients often develop over a number of years unless they know that patient reasonably well. So I guess the value, the added bang for the buck in seeing a GP regularly is that they can develop a long-term picture of which way things are trending in your health. So that might be things like your blood pressure or your blood sugar level or your blood lipid level. But often what it will do with an experienced practitioner is it raises their concerns about other issues when they see patterns emerging. It's not as simple as just seeing someone getting a range of tests and having something diagnosed. Often that long-term incremental relationship is what is very useful for a GP. So on the other hand, I saw another patient who had what would be...
Thanks, Dr. Miller. And that was Western Perspective for this week. We'll be back again next time. But for now, back to you, Ivan and Melly.
Thanks, Paige. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Remember to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly, Paige, Peter and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.